Welcome to Harmony. I'm joined today by Seth Gruber, the CEO of the White Rose Resistance Ministry. Seth, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. Seth, I want to talk a bit about my take on pride. I don't think there's any version of pride that's good. This came up on my X account, my Twitter account. There was a young woman that tweeted out.
You got in trouble, bro. They weren't happy with you.
Yeah, she tweeted out that I have two sons, and one thing I'm certain of in raising them is that they will never feel ashamed of being young white men. I will raise them to feel proud. And I saw this, and I get where the young lady's coming from.
Right.
I think that her defensive reaction is justified. I think there's a lot of demonization of white men.
Yeah.
But I think she's chosen the wrong treatment. And so I posted back to her, ma'am, respectfully, don't let the racial idolatry pervasive throughout our society make you a racial idolater.
Yeah.
Pride is never good. Raise your boys to feel blessed they were made in the image of a mighty God. We all were. Feeling blessed produces gratitude. Pride produces resentment and entitlement. Don't become the problem you're reacting to. Have a great Sunday.
Yeah.
Pride is a word that I've been on a tangent about probably for 3 years.
Yeah, good for you.
And trying to eliminate it. I think people think there are good forms of pride. I just don't.
I was reading some of your Twitter storm stuff about this, Jason, and I think I'm in agreement. But because it seems like you're connecting it to individuals, which I mean, that's where sin happens. I'm proud of America. I'm not proud of everything that our country has ever done, but I'm proud to be an American. Sure, right? I'm proud to be an American.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm grateful.
Okay, that's good.
I'm grateful because I just think that when we take pride in things, we become way too defensive of them, and then we'll go to any lengths to defend them.
Yeah.
And so people were asking me like, "What do you mean if I can't be proud of my kids?" I was like, I don't think you should be, because you may go overboard. You take so much pride that becomes such a part of your identity that
you're saying it flirts with idolatry.
It leads to idolatry,
and it leads to
question.
it. Yeah, totally.
No question.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, we had a conversation recently about how theological so much of the culture war is, and how the left takes fundamentally Christian ideas, which pretty sure that the church was saying before secular humanism ever came around, and just perverts them, inverts them, flips them upside down. And the same thing is true with pride, isn't it? I mean, like, of all the sins in the Bible, pride is like the biggest thing. You just brought this up, so I pulled this up. I mean, like, Proverbs 16:18, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs 11:2, when pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with the humble is wisdom. Proverbs 8:13, the fear of the Lord is the instruction to wisdom. Humility is before honor. Proverbs 13:10, by pride comes nothing but strife, but with the well-advised is wisdom. Proverbs 29:23, a man's pride will bring him low, but a person of humble spirit will be honored. Proverbs 18:12, pride comes before the destruction, and a haughty spirit before the fall. I mean, a high look and a proud heart and the plowing of the wicked is sin. It just goes on and on and on. And so, of course, pride becomes the word and the representation of so much of our pagan evil in our culture today. And now you're supposed to you associate the word pride with a sodomizing homosexual. That's what it's come to mean. But I think you're onto something, that the backlash from non-woke people, conservative-ish or Christian or patriots, is to try to reclaim that and use that in a sort of a good way. Because believe me, as a white dude, Jason, I'm sick and tired too of being told by the feminazis on my college tours, or when we go mix it up at the March for Life with all the crazy leftists on DC. Shut up, white man. You're a white man. You're a dude. You have male genitals. It's either my genitals or my skin color, right? Shut up. You're the colonizers, right? You genocided Indians. You need to shut up. It's time for white men to sit down and be quiet. So I understand why a young man would kind of just want to be like, flip their lid and say, screw you. Because it's totally fine to tolerate black pride in America.
Yeah.
If you tell someone that you shouldn't be proud of being black, like, you'll be called a racist.
Yeah.
Any other ethnicity is allowed to be proud of their heritage, except white people. So I get the backlash.
I get it 1,000%. But what you don't want to do is, because again, people are like mistaking or saying, well, you defended when black people use pride. I'm like, no, I don't. There's never any good pride. And so the cure for this Black Lives Matters and the racial idolatry is not for you to adopt racial idolatry and pride. And it's gratitude is what the world is lacking.
Yep.
Because when you're grateful,
Yep.
like, man, I'm really grateful for being an American.
Creates humility.
But you're going to defend. There are lengths there are sacrifices I will make out of gratitude. Including being despised, being ridiculed, being, oh, you're an Uncle Tom, you're a sellout. I'm so grateful for my American citizenship that I'll deal with all those slings and arrows. And I'm not. It's like the devil is using certain people to inflict our culture with pride and to trick people into thinking, well, the solution is for me to show my pride. And that's not the solution. It's like, at some point I said it's like COVID. You've been vaxxed and boosted with pride, and you can't figure out that it's causing all these other complications. That again, it's if you want black pride, you want to know why black people run around feeling resentful and entitled, is because they've taken so much pride in their skin color.
Right.
And if you want to know why gay people have a Pride Month, they've taken so much pride in their sexual activity. This is insanity. This is when your whole identity is based on how you have sex. That's insanity. It's these things. Your identity should be, I'm an image bearer of God. That's my only identity. That promotes healing and positivity and safety for children. And provision for women and order for all of us, as opposed to, I'm black. So that's what my identity is wrapped up in being black, or I'm gay and my identity is wrapped up in, or even heterosexuality. That's not my identity.
That's right.
I'm someone that is here to follow God. And if I take if I'm every day, this is what I'm telling you why I'm so anti-pride. But if I sit here every day and say, I'm a Christian, my identity is to follow God, it locks me into some behavior that serves me and serves the kingdom. If I take my identity in my skin color, whether it's black, white, brown, or yellow, if I take it in my sexuality, I'm free to do virtually anything.
That's right.
Being black doesn't stop me from giving you the finger, cursing you out, slapping you. No skin color stops any of that. No political point of view stops any of that. But Christianity locks you into like, here's a set of instructions, gentlemen.
Well, I think one of the reasons that the Bible is so anti-pride and warns against it, maybe more than anything else, is because it creates a godlike, ludicrous level of self-importance that prevents the need for repentance. And so, of course, now, what I think, language develops. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that's not a good thing. And so, like, when people say, like, I'm really proud of you, son, you beat the entire contestants in the 1 mile race, and you won, and you worked for a whole year to beat that time. I'm really proud of you. I would mean that in a different way than,
You might mean it.
you should be proud of yourself and go look in the mirror and flex, right? But even the way that we use language sometimes can have unintentional or unseen consequences. Because language is, language is something
Power is in the tongue,
that
man.
we don't talk enough about.
Power's in the tongue.
That's right. I just did a whole episode on language. Like, this has been totally neglected and looked over, and it's connected to all that you're talking about, Jason. Like, there's really interesting scene in Alice in Wonderland. Now, and the book. I don't know if they put it in the film. And she meets Humpty Dumpty, and Humpty Dumpty says, "When I use a word, it means precisely what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less." And Alice goes, "Can you really make a word mean so many different things? That's all." And Humpty Dumpty, Jason, goes, "The question is which is to be master. That's all." In other words, allegedly, Humpty Dumpty seems to be saying, are we to master language, or is language to master us? Which is to be master? Because if language masters us, then it means that there is an objective reality, right? That words actually mean something in the real world. That when I say man, I don't mean woman. That word it's a pointer.
Yeah.
It says this word that I'm talking about, I mean that. It refers to something that exists in the real world. But if we're to master language, then there is no objective reality, and everything can be redefined and reshaped whenever we want. And so I think there are many words that we use today that the left has fundamentally redefined, and they've done it gradually. And conservatives, Christians, begin to use these new words without fully understanding what they're communicating and how that begins to change the social fabric and how the public thinks about the issues that those words refer to. It's very dangerous.
Well, I think...
And pride is a great example of that.
I think that we as believers are too undisciplined.
Yeah.
And that I don't care what the left is doing. If power's in the tongue and God left us this Bible full of words... And he had specific intent, the fact that we deviate and don't define conversations, because what the left does is they define all conversations. They'll come up with some little trick, play on words, and the next thing you know, everybody that's a believer is debating Christian nationalism. I was like, I'm 57. I went 52 years without ever hearing about Christian nationalism. Now they say, hey, you're a Christian nationalist and that's bad. And now I watch all these Christians go debate whether they're Christian nationalists or whatever. I've seen it. Yeah. And I'm just like, hey, this is crazy. And so I just like, hey, it's like the word racism. It's not in the Bible. Race isn't discussed in the Bible. And so they've tricked us into having everything on TV, everything race, where the Bible talks about idolatry.
Yeah.
And that's why I talk about idolatry so much, because I'm trying to force. No. God wants us to talk about idolatry.
Yeah.
He doesn't want us to talk about racism. That's why he put it in the Bible. And so as he's got a clear position on pride, and we think we're clever enough. Well, it actually means something different now. Well, God's already told us what it means.
Yeah.
And he's already taken a position on it.
Yeah.
So why do I even have to debate this?
Yep.
And it's so clear cut to me what pride does. And it's when you start taking black pride or any sort of pride, that becomes your idol.
That's right.
And
that's exactly right. Yeah.
You're worshiping something that isn't God, and it's problematic. So I really am sympathetic for this woman and for everybody that's dealing with that issue. I'm just prescribing, in my view, a better treatment. Let's don't treat the symptoms. Let's treat the root causes, and let's put more gratitude for God into the world. And I'm telling you, and it's just like when you're sitting there saying, hey, I'm telling my child that I'm proud of them. Well, God's already given us the example in the Bible. I'm well pleased with you. And it's very simple. Oh, well, God said well pleased. Why don't I just say well pleased?
Yeah.
But we don't have the discipline, and we don't think it's important.
Yeah.
Well, this stuff, the details are important in the Bible.
Good. That's good. Jason, you can tell what the God of a society is by what you're not allowed to say.
Go ahead. I don't want that. I don't want that, Jack. I don't want that.
Which is fascinating when you see that on both sides of the political aisle. You can tell what the God of a society is by what you're not allowed to say.
You're taking me to, and I don't know if you're doing this intentionally, but you're taking me to the Christ is King debate.
Right. That's been interesting to watch on X recently. I mean, people are losing their minds over that.
Where are you at on that?
Well, okay. Just like I don't think it's appropriate to intentionally go out of your way to try to attack someone. I understand one side of that debate. Like if someone's saying, hey, Christ is king, Jew. Okay, well then, yes, Christ is king, but you're just trying to be a jerk. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, but I would say that about anything, by the way. Like, if I was talking to a gender confused person, I wouldn't want to be like, hey, let's get Legion out, tranny. Like that would you're just a jerk. Right? But also there's a kernel of truth in there. Like demons were the first ones to insist on plural pronoun usage. Okay. I am Legion for we are many. Okay. So, okay, there's a kernel of truth in there, but I'm just being a jerk at that point, right? So that watching this whole debate about this, I understand why people are saying I'm seeing it used as an anti-Semitic trope, just as a way to like shove Christ into the face of unrepentant Jews. Okay, well then just don't be a jerk. But I don't understand the absolute insane backlash against the popularizing use of the term Christ is King. People have been saying Jesus is King or Christ is King for centuries.
Yes.
So if you leave out the whole debate over how people are saying it to Jews, let's just put that aside for a second. Don't be a jerk to anyone. Don't try to intentionally just malign and attack someone to win, I don't know, political points or something like that. Like that should just be applied across the board. But there is a very, I would call it spiritual aspect to all of this flaming Twitter pile of poop of people flipping out, saying just the phrase Christ is King. Not that you're using it in a way to be a relational jerk. Just the phrase Christ is King is anti-Semitic and it's bigoted. It's like, well, that's because you don't want there to be a king that's ruling and reigning and that you're accountable to.
Well,
so, anyways.
There are people that talk about other things that people don't like that also say Christ is King. And because those people are jerks and inappropriate and not exemplifying Christian-like behavior, therefore we should all try to avoid using Christ as King because bad people.
Because some bad people do, yeah.
And so, to me, I'm like, well, if Charles Manson rose from the dead and said Christ is King, I'd be like, well, he's broke clock. He's right today. And if Andrew Tate says Christ is King, I was like, oh, broke clock. He's right. I'm kind of an absolutist, and I accept the truth from wherever it comes.
Sure.
If the Grand Dragon of the KKK says today is Sunday and Jason is sitting in his house talking to Seth Gruber, I'm like, okay, he's got one right here. It doesn't bother me, and so we're the debate over motives and people's unique ability to discern motives, I think, is inappropriate. And I think
The Apostle Paul talked about that, Jason.
yes,
Some preach Christ from selfish ambition or vainglory. And what's he say? I rejoice that Christ is being preached.
yes.
He completely avoids the whole debate over, but what's the motivation behind the statement? It's interesting.
Well, and my belief at the moment, and willing to be corrected by any of the listeners or anybody out there, is that the Bible's pretty clear cut that we're incapable of discerning motives, and that's for God. Only God can know someone's
The heart
heart.
is deceitfully wicked.
Yeah, and so we can make judgments, and we should make righteous judgments, but we shouldn't ascribe motives to why people make a mistake, because you just never know. And I've made mistakes often thinking people were motivated by this, and come to find out they're motivated by something completely different.
Sure.
And they were well intentioned. I had a example today where I asked a question and I got an answer back that didn't answer my question, and I'm like, this dude thinks he's smarter than me, and it's not that he was unclear about what it
Right.
is we were going to do, and just wanted some clarity. But I was like, hey, just answer my question, and then we'll get to that other stuff. But again, it's just another example of you never know what people's motives are, and we should probably stay out of that and let God do that.
Unless they tell you what their motive is, like, I want to make sodomy proud again. Unless they tell you, then you can say, well, that's not good.
Well, we're going to wrap here. I hope you guys enjoyed and maybe have a better understanding of my position on pride. It's never good. No matter the source, no matter the intention, God has ruled on that. I don't even have to think about it. That's the beauty of the Bible, that, it takes my thinking, it eliminates all of it, and lets me know what I think is unimportant. Anyway, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining us.